I'm very excited about this. Some of the most successful startups had a rocky start and had to readjust their thoughts on strategy, market, and products to make it work. How do you know when you need to review your plans and at what costs? We chat to some entrepreneurs who learned the hard way exactly what it takes to turn obstacles into opportunities. Let's do this. Now, the next brand we're about to speak about, I have been involved since the very beginning. I'm friends with people from the brand, the wife of I know everyone from the brand. I've had the shoes early days before Ashton Kutcher, Matthew McConaughey, big sales in America, very South African, proudly South African brand. I'm chatting to the CEO of Veldskoen Shoes, Driekie. Zondagh. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Sif. I'm doing really well, and thank you so much for having us.
Okay, I just want to, I got this offline. You're retired from a slightly more corporate world to assist with running the ship at the family business Veldskoen. For the first 10 years of her career, she honed her talents with a German textile company, from sales, forecasting, to inventory planning, to imports, exports, to customer service and sales. You do it all. You're definitely a mother. You're wearing all. You're just wearing a lot of hats. That's quite incredible. How do you get involved in it? What happened?
I must be honest, Sif, I think, I've always had quite a nerdy side. I absolutely love figures. I love analyzing. I love, looking into like every possible aspect of potential, like increased efficiencies, increased profitability. Like I nerd out big time on things like that. And I think I've been blessed with having the opportunities to, in the corporate world, get involved in many different fields and just gain loads of different experiences. And in 2019, I've decided to officially kick off my high heels, leave the corporate world, join the family business. I always say I've made the decision to no longer work for money, but rather work for passion. And the reality is what we stand for and what we try and achieve at Veldskoen Shoes is way more rewarding than any corporate salary could have ever been.
That for me I still believe that passion, like being inspired and motivated and disciplined, for me is definitely way more important than money. But listen, taking a very South African, very I love to say, plat op die aarde, down to earth brand that is just so South African. It smells South African. It feels South African when you touch the brand. Taking it internationally, how has that been? Because I'm going to start right there. Because you guys have a new factory that you built in Atlanta. Some of your biggest sales are in LA. Ashton Kutcher, Matthew McConaughey, some big celebrities are wearing your brand. How has it been the transition? Because South African market must be very different to the American market.
Oh my word, you have no idea. And I must be honest with you, I think it's one of those kind of like catch-22 situations where on the one side, we have so much excitement and desire to grow really fast and, take the brand global and, just increase sales all around. But on the other side, the complexity with entering international markets are huge. I mean, to give you a quick idea, we have found that in every single country, the messaging have to be entirely different. What works, for example, in the South African market, the things that the South African audience like to hear or what attract them doesn't work in America or in Taiwan, or what the customers in China wants to, for example, hear and what attract them to the brand is completely different to what works in Australia. So
even though Australia has a lot of South Africans.
Well, but that is true, and it's funny you say that, because many people assume that in the call it 32 different countries that we sell in, many people assume that we're obviously selling to South Africans. And yes, there are South Africans buying our product, but we find that the majority of the customers overseas are genuinely attracted, not only just to the positive story behind the brand, but they're attracted to the incredible skill set, comfort, the quality, the fun kind of look and feel around these handmade South African shoes.
Okay. I think it's quite honest because a lot of businesses want to grow fast. They want to be big. They want to be exporting, but there are difficulties. Let's talk about the difficulties of rapid growth with the brand, supply chain, and stock. And that is, you are the boss of that kind of world. I do know the other people who are involved in the company, and I'm glad I actually got to speak to you because I do speak to Nick and all of them. I speak to them more often, but I haven't spoken to you about it as intently. Like, what is the difficulties of this particular things?
To give you an idea, from a brand point of view, and it's one of those things that I think people don't often think about, like upfront. But from a brand point of view, our brand image and value and culture system are so critically important to us. So every time we decide to increase our, launch a new product, increase our basket of goods, or enter a new territory, our marketing team spent days on end building out new content vaults, new images that's in line with, with our kind of like look and feel we're trying to create, new copywriting that's suitable to each new territory that we want to sell in, because like I mentioned, it's completely different. They spend a huge amount of time to make sure that when somebody look at a new product, no matter which country they're in, they get to feel and experience this proudly positive South African vibe that we want them to associate to our shoes. So definitely a lot of work from a brand point of view, but thankfully we've got an incredible marketing team. They are just phenomenal and they're very passionate, so they make it look easy, but I know that they work really, really hard at it. Then supply chain is, the complexity around the supply chain, the stock in itself is intense because we don't just manufacture locally. We also pride ourselves in sourcing all our raw materials that are available in South Africa from South African factories. So we need to forward plan and communicate with all these various factories way in advance to make sure that everything line up and that we eventually get the product at launch date. And then obviously once the product arrives, and this is where I always chuckle because really very few people consider this last bit, you need to make sure that you've got sufficient racking and shelving and space in your warehouse to house these new products. And you need to do it in a way to ensure that you can achieve maximum efficiencies when it comes to picking and packing of orders. So all in all, the complexity of growing your brand, launching new products, entering new territories it's intense, but definitely worth it. But a lot of work that goes into it.
I'm obsessed with your DHL shoe. I have one.
Do you?
I have a pair.
Of course,
of course. Girl, I have a pair. Those DHL limited edition shoe. It was delivered, like a big delivery. I'm a big fan. Me, Musi, and a few of us got a pair. I love the vibe of it. I'm very close to DHL and Veldskoen. And ironically, you put the brands together and it makes sense.
Can I tell you now, that were probably in the history of our business one of the most fun and exciting projects we have ever worked with. The team at DHL were just phenomenal.
That's my family.
And can I tell you now, oh my word.
Plat op die platste.
Weet jy wat? Plat op die aarde, goeie mense.
Oh, one of my favorites. That's the CEO of DHL Africa, one of the most amazing men. And for me, when I saw the brands coming together, it absolutely made sense because he would wear those shoes.
Oh, 100%.
He would wear them, when we go out on holiday, when I'm traveling with him overseas, he would wear those shoes. And it just fits so perfectly. I love the alignment.
And I love the fact that many people come on, a footwear brand and a logistics company, most people didn't see it coming. But I think that was part of the excitement because DHL, like you said, from a value point of view and the incredible people that works there, it just line up. And this project I'm sure you know the whole story, but we eventually did the launch with Minnie Dlamini at Paris Fashion Week. She wore the shoes there.
It still hurts. It still hurts that I wasn't invited. But to people from DHL and Veldskoen.
Did you not get your invite?
No, I didn't. Wasn't there something in London as well? There was something in London.
We had the most epic launch party.
No, girl. I saw the footage.
London.
No. Don't even speak.
I'm not going to lie.
Footage. All my friends were there. I think Megan was there. Jeremy was there. What's it called? Henny was there.
I reckon your invite got lost in the post.
Literally,
Definitely got lost in the post.
All of you were sending pictures pictures to me on WhatsApp. It looked amazing, great vibe. Amelia and I are very close as well. It just aligned. It's a beautiful alignment.
It was just incredible. I mean, the fact that we had this platform, this world stage, to present this handmade South African shoe with a company like DHL, what a proud moment.
No, I loved it. Listen, if you could go back and you, after everything you know now, what would you think, what would be the biggest lesson that you learned with taking a brand from South Africa to America? Or internationally. I know you said it earlier about different markets.
Yes.
If you could go back and you could change a few things with the lessons that you know now, what would it be?
Oh my word, there are so many. And it's funny because a few of them, if I think about it now, it feels like it should have been common sense,
Yes.
but I honestly didn't think about it. And if I could turn back time, it would have helped if I just like knew this. So in every single territory, for example, one of the key things is the fact of seasonality. Think about it.
Summer,
Oh, my word.
winter, Niemann.
So let me tell you. So if you look at our range, it's like I look at our products. I'm like, okay, cool, slippers. I don't have to worry about slippers until May.
Yes.
Because then I'm going to start manufacturing and build up my inventory because, when it's winter. Sandals, of course, it's December. I can start in October.
It's snowing.
Oh, my word. Like, when it's summer here, it's winter in America. I mean, you need to take into account all these different seasons, which means that you need to, from a planning point of view, make sure that you have all your items, every single product range, whether it's like a winter boot or a summer sandal, you need to have it available all year around.
Oh, yeah.
You need to take into account that in America, for example, and that's one of the complexities, in every country, the contribution to sales between the different colors and sizes are not just slightly different, it is completely different. So in South Africa, for example, my heritage blue sole size 9, for example, might be my top seller, and my heritage yellow size 7 might be a slow-moving item. But let me tell you, in Italy, in our Italian warehouse, the heritage yellow size UK 7 is the top seller. So it's the entire mindset of a different trends that appeal to every single country. And then, like I said, the messaging. The messaging that, that's important, in America, and I must give it to the Americans, they love dealing with South African brands. They love dealing with a brand and products that's actually manufactured in South Africa, and I never knew that. I never expected that that sense of wanting to support, from the Americans. So our messaging to them are completely different to here.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, if I look at our Taiwan warehouse, all of a sudden, all our content, you're going to laugh at this, but if you look at our content vault, all of a sudden we need to include dogs in handbags. And
what?
Do you understand? Because that appeals, that level of imagery appeals to, to the Taiwan market. So there are many, many, many things that I wish I knew up front. But I must say, and I can't say this enough, thank goodness for the team that works at Veldskoen, because they are so incredible, where I didn't think about things and maybe didn't have, the foresight to plan in advance. Somebody in the team thought about it. So it all works out well. But definitely, I wish I knew up front just, the kind of impact it will have on inventory and ranges and trends and content between all the different.
So if any brand is actually going and doing the same thing you did, what kind of advice would you give them? If you were talking to yourself all those years ago, what would you have said to yourself?
To be totally honest, first of all, I will tell them to make sure that they find the most perfect partner in terms of a warehousing solution, because that's where you can go horribly wrong.
Right.
Obviously, for us as a South African company, although we do all the work from South Africa with our team, the one thing that is outsourced is for warehousing. So, we've got a 3PL that pick and pack and deal with our orders. So you have to make sure that you pick a partner that actually can deliver the level of service that you require. And then secondly, I would actually advise them to do a little bit more homework between the different states, maybe take a more targeted approach.
Because they're countries. In America,
it literally
the state is a country.
It's a completely different human altogether. Sometimes you travel 2 hours and it feels like you've literally, you need a passport to enter the state. But yeah, so I'll definitely, I would suggest that people take a more targeted approach as opposed to thinking you're going to export to America and just supply the entire America.
Okay, let's talk about price point. You cannot charge the same thing you charge in America and South Africa, right? Or Taiwan. How are you balancing that?
It's quite an interesting one, and every now and again, it's like I have somebody, like complain about the fact that, for example, a shoe is more affordable in South Africa as opposed to America, and I'm always amazed because the reality is there are so many things to consider. I mean, the obvious ones being the export cost. I mean, whether you air freight or do a sea shipment, I mean, there's serious cost involved. There's some form of like VAT and import duties that's applicable, so your landed costs are not the same as, as here. And then the other thing that people also need to take into account, other than just like the courier costs, etc., even within the country being different, is the fact that we do a lot of like research to compare different products in each, in each territory. So, for example, if I look at like a leather boot in America, that's the quality of ours, full grain leather, hydrophobic finish, comfortable TPR sole, etc., etc. The reality is that I'm not going to just do a direct conversion and sell a shoe there at a price that essentially might be a tenth of similar quality shoes that's already being sold there. So we're also very mindful of the fact that you need to cover all your costs, but we also need to make sure our products are positioned from a price point of view in each country so that it makes sense and it doesn't come across as either, like a cheapie or overly expensive.
Yeah. So you humans have this weird thing that price means quality. A lot of the times it does, but like if
not always.
Not always.
No.
And I think that's another interesting point. So that must have taken you forever to get to that, finding a balance.
It definitely has, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think we will ever perfect it, but we're constantly working on fine-tuning it. And I mean, from that point of view, the only thing that we spent a lot of time on really is constant market research. I mean, I try and pull technical data sheets on, competitive products overseas, to really, really make sure that, it's not just a guess from a price point of view, but it's an educated one that makes as much sense as possible.
Let's talk about cash flow issues. How do you handle that? Because I think a lot of people don't speak enough about it, because I think remember the old days before COVID, no one used to speak about, I don't have much money, I'm fine. But now people speak about cash flow and, that kind of stuff. How do you handle cash flow things? I think you're a numbers person.
How do I handle that?
Yes, as a business.
Really, really big bottle of red wine. lots of bookings to the hair salon to try and hide all the grey hair.
Yes.
No, look, to be totally honest, it is.
The reason why I ask you that is because you exporting it. There's a lot of companies everywhere. So if it's doing well there, it might not be necessarily doing well there, and that can affect.
Plus, your payment terms are different. So you might have had. I mean, not might. Yeah. In fact, the complexity around cash flow, and it's the one thing I actually love talking about, because, like you said, many people don't want to admit that there's this ugly, scary, intimidating, like thing called cash flow, but. We need to be real, right? Cash flow is like it's frightening and it's scary and it's tough. But what we do is, well, in any business, I assume, what you need to do is you can't decide to run a cash flow once a month. It's one of those things where you kind of like really need to like have like a proper sense check on a daily basis of what's coming in, what's going out, what needs to go out at the end of a month. And then you also need to be honest with your suppliers and very often with your customers as well. You need to communicate upfront. Reality is sometimes you might have had a large batch of products manufactured, expecting sales. I mean, we all deal with retailers, right? We know what that's like. Yeah. I mean, not mentioning names, but I mean, I had some people placing orders, via mail for specific ranges and colors and sizes, which we even manufacture. You've got your bill to pay. And then 2 days before delivery, they say, cancel that. We're not going to take that. We're now going to take this. Or, we're going to delay it by a month or two. And then the reality is you still have those bills to pay without having the income. So cash flow is probably, for me in business, I think one of the most critical things that anybody and everybody needs to really, really, really pay attention to. And all I can suggest is that you need to just make sure that you know exactly where you stand, and you need to know up front that there are going to be some tough conversations you'll definitely need to have. So make sure you've got good relationships with your suppliers. Make sure that you've got good relationships with, like those scary people called the banks. Make sure that you've got some partners who will be willing to jump in and assist, when you do experience a short-term difficult situation.
So I know most people at Veldskoen, and everyone has a similar vibe. I feel like I can just sit down and chill with them, and we can talk for hours and have a good time, and we don't have to talk business. Everyone at Veldskoen is that. How have you gotten the business to that point? Because I either bump into them at the horses, at dinners, all over charitable events. We do a lot of things. I'm connected with everyone.
Yes.
But there is a through line of the business of people. How do you get rid of the kak?
Can I tell you now?
That is a very South African way to put it.
That's a great way to put it. So I just need to first of all say thank you so much. Like, you don't understand how, I have goosebumps. What you've said now is the biggest compliment ever, because that is exactly what we want to achieve. We want people to look at our team at Veldskoen and essentially even at our brands, Veldskoen and Plucky, and we want them to say,
yes,
there's
Pluckies.
something different. We want people to, they need to experience our passion and our positivity, because that's really what it's about. So I think the biggest benefit that we have, and I can't take, I'm not going to even pretend to be responsible for it. I certainly try and add value. But between our two founders, Nick, who you know, and my husband, Zondagh,
yes, I know all of them.
Between the two of them, the day that they even started thinking about these brands and this company, and then eventually started the company in 2016, they have decided back then already that our brands will, and there's no deviation, it will be all around positivity and shining just like that positive spotlight on all the things good and amazing in South Africa. So there's enough people worrying about all the negativity and, moaning about, everything and anything. But not enough people and not enough companies and brands are really celebrating all the beautiful and positive things. And those two guys, our founders, have decided that that is what this brand will be about. We are going to be positive. We are going to be kind. We are going to change the traditional and historical views around the stitched-down shoe called Veldskoen. We are going to turn it into something that make every single South African, irrelevant of age or gender or culture or shape or size. We want all South Africans to feel like these brands are made for them. And I think what's happened is, because those were their goals from day one, we have just attracted like-minded people. And every time we look at adding somebody to our team, there's quite a no-nonsense, no bullshit approach.
Agreed.
With regards to, nobody cares about titles. Yes, obviously you have those because you need them, but we are not a title company. I always, it's like, I will do the deliveries, I will sweep the floor. Our entire team jump in wherever they are needed. Number one, so no titles. Number two, we will be kind and respectful and direct, not just to each other, but to our suppliers, to our customers, to everybody that we deal with. And the reality is, the minute somebody step out of those lines, and there are many
You know it.
Yeah, it. There are many negative people. The reality is, when they cross our paths, we deal with them swiftly.
Agreed.
So to answer your question, how do we get rid of a cock? We get rid of him very swiftly. I've been told that I'm Nick always jokes and say I'm almost like the secret and silent assassin.
Only way.
Because I can be, with a lot of respect, very direct, and people tend to I can give you one look and they'll know.
No,
so the reality is
important.
at our business, these are the things that's important. And what you've said, the way you feel when you talk to anybody in our team, really, that is the only way that we want people to view us.
No, they're my people, all my people. Okay, if you could give any advice, nearly about to finish, any advice to any entrepreneur, future CEO, someone who's just started to be a CEO, what advice can you give them when they come into a company?
To be totally honest, I think for me, one of the things that I love about, Nick and Russ, our two founders, and the story that I want to remind everybody of, is the fact that nothing's impossible. I think there are so many people that they don't realize the value they have. They don't realize or accept, the incredible opportunities that they can offer. So if you have some good ideas, just go for it. Like put yourself out there. Don't hold back. That's number one. And then number two, I also want to say, the reality is it's not always moonshine and roses. Trust me, we've made loads of mistakes, and we still will make many mistakes, but we learn from them. So we always tell people, if anybody needs any advice, no matter in which industry, as long as it's like a local company that's going to manufacture locally, because that's what we're about, anybody are welcome to contact us, reach out to us. We will tell them about the school fees we paid. We will give them the good advice. We will tell them about the bad things we've done. We will honestly do everything in our power to make sure that everybody are able to take this entrepreneurial route, start a company, make a difference, and hopefully go internationally.
Is the customer always right?
Oh, no.
Best answer. The truth.
I told you, I like to be direct.
That's as direct as it can be.
Look, I spent many, many years in sales, and I've been blessed with learning quite a bit about it. And I know many people like to say the politically correct answer is yes, the customer is always right, and the customer is king. And of course, we value them, and I've got a huge amount of respect for them, but the reality is they are not always right.
Agreed.
So my advice to my team are always, and I've got quite a line that I will not get, but I don't allow it to be crossed there, is that yes, you always have to be incredibly respectful and kind of a customer, but the reality is the customer is not always right. It gets to a certain point, that's where I love for them to just put the customer through to me, and I will, in a very respectful and responsible manner, disappoint the customer and rather walk away from business if I feel that it's actually getting to a point where my team is being negatively affected.
Agreed. It has been a pleasure. I feel your passion. Any last words? Any last words about being CEO?
So, well, first of all, I just have to say again, I'm a huge fan of you.
Thank you so much.
And this has been incredible chatting to you. Thank you so much for being a fan of Veldskoen.
Big fan.
Not even just a fan, I'll rather say for being part of our Veldskoen family. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. I love your passion, and I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to be doing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.